Hi, good morning everybody. I thought I would pop on really early on, well not really early, on Monday morning and just show you, for those of you that asked, how to make a starter. So a starter is basically what you'd use to make sourdough. And it's a kind of replacement for yeast. So partly because yeast is so difficult to get hold of at the moment, when we do some bread, a bit like we did the pizza dough last week, you can use a starter in place of that. And it's a really lovely sciencey project to do with the kids or for adults as well. So I thought I would just show you what to do. So you're going to need to do it every day for a week. So I'm just posting this one as a live and I'll show you mine every day. So get up at the same time. Literally it's 5 minutes. It's not going to take very long. These are two of my starters that I keep in the fridge. So I don't know if I can show you too much without tipping it. You'll see it's nice and bubbly in there. This one's actually been asleep for a couple of days. Last time I used this, you only feed it when you use it, when it gets going. You might see some bubbles a bit there. And then this is my second one that has been in the fridge actually for longer and I've not used it. And I literally just fed it a few minutes ago and you might see those kind of lovely bubbles there. And it's that sort of texture, okay? So it's kind of like a flour and water paste really. So when you start, what you need is just a clean glass jar. Jam jar will be fine. I've got some of these, they're sort of like the Kilner jars, and I really like them because you need to let the air in a little bit so that you get the natural yeast from the air. And then just with that lid like that, it's got a little bit of space for the air. Glass is brilliant because you can see it. But as I say, an old jam jar or a little pot, this one's kind of an IKEA pot with a separate lid. You could use a Tupperware, whatever you want to do. So take your pot and then you want to measure out. You want some bread flour. Just going to move this a bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. So I've just got my jar on my scales. And then you want to add in 50 grams of bread flour. That's strong flour, okay? Whatever brand. This one is Marriage's, which actually I think is a bit better, but use whatever you've got. So I'm just going to measure in 50. Perfect. And if it's a bit over, it doesn't matter. It's equal quantities of flour and water. And I'm just going to set my scales again. And then I've got some water. If your water isn't filtered or you think it's not very nice, then just boil it and cool it and then add in the same quantity. So also going to measure this in grams. So I'm putting in 50 grams here of water. Couldn't be any easier, I promise. And this, by the way, see, I've put a bit too much in. So I've got 55 there. So all I'm just going to do is pop in a little bit more flour. So it's the same. Right. So all you do is literally, if I lift this up, you'll be able to see. Oops, I'll put that back again and you can see it. Is just stir it. I've just got a metal spoon. That's fine because it's easy to wash. And you'll see it makes a paste. It's quite thick at the moment. So you just want to keep mushing it. Sorry about the clanging noise. Hi, Rebecca. I'm just showing you guys how to do a little starter. So I'm going to do a little video every day. So you can just do this. It will take 5 minutes whenever you've got a little bit of time today. And then try and do it at the same time every day. So I just basically feed mine in the morning. So you can see at the moment it's super stiff, isn't it? It's like wallpaper paste, okay? And you can see, that's why I like the glass jar, that basically I've got all of the flour in. And you want to scrape down the sides. So you want to make sure that everything is mixed together in one place. And then if you've ever worked with flour and water before, it makes a horrible paste that's really yucky to clean. So I always just really clean my spoon before anything else. And then I just go and wash that straight away. So always make sure you've put all of that goodness back in there. So basically that is it for day one. So just 50 grams of flour, 50 grams of water. And then I just put that lid on there so it's got a little bit of air coming in and just leave it out on the side in your kitchen. Don't put it anywhere in direct sunlight. If it gets too hot, it's not so great. And then we're just going to come back and do something very similar each day. So if I show you that one, that was my one, and I showed you this one, which is one I have, which I fed this morning, and you can see how the texture kind of changes. And by the end of today, this one is going to be super bubbly. I don't think you can really see too many bubbles in there. This is the one that I fed last. I made bread yesterday. So this is, I last used a couple of days ago, and hopefully there you can see some of the bubbles. That's nowhere near as active as it gets. When you feed it, it really starts to bubble up. So you'll feed it in the morning, then you'll use your starter kind of sort of tea time in the afternoon, and then you use it to make a kind of really lovely loaf, sort of like that. And you can do little fancy scoring patterns on them. But otherwise, as I said, you can use your starter instead of yeast for any bread recipe, but when we do our bread next week. So I hope that was useful. So as I said, literally a glass jar of some sort, an old jam jar or a little Tupperware, whatever you want, 50 grams of bread flour, that's the strong white bread flour, and 50 grams of water, so equal quantities. Mix it up to make a paste like that, and then just pop it on the side, and you will start to see the magic as the natural yeast from the air starts to really ferment. And you'll be able to, really good if you're doing this with the kids, I always like to use all the senses, so give it a smell. It doesn't really smell, just smells to me like flour, but when in a few days when it's really started to ferment, your starters will smell like bread, really yeasty. Sometimes they smell a bit vinegary, or yeah, that one's quite vinegary and quite winey, and it just totally depends on the different flour you used, how long they've been there for, how recently you fed them, and all the rest of it. So I hope that was helpful. 5-minute job today, so get started. Today's day 1, and I will be back for another 5-minute one tomorrow, and we'll just keep an eye on our starters over the rest of the week. Take care, bye.